Morning, good morning. Welcome. I'll give a couple minutes for people to arrive. I feel like I'm dark. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll give a couple more minutes for people to arrive. If you're checking in on Facebook, welcome. YouTube, welcome. Instagram, welcome. If you're watching on Instagram, the sound is better because I have a mic that goes to the YouTube and Facebook. Our YouTube is Against the Stream Meditation. I invite you to join our YouTube channel, Against the Stream Meditation. That's also where I can actually see the messages and interact a little bit more easily. Good morning. Thank you, Jesse. I see your message. Thank you, thank you. Apologize for ditching class last week. I missed the Wednesday morning because I went on a little road trip to surprise my friend for his birthday. We were supposed to be in Hawaii celebrating my buddy Joe's 50th birthday, and of course we didn't get to go because of the pandemic. And so I went up to Santa Cruz and spent a couple days sheltering in place with him and his family and my family a little bit. It was good to revisit the roots, my home where I started practicing. I was driving by the juvenile hall where my meditation practice started in 1988. He lives up the hill from there. So a lot of reflections on the last 32 years. And so much gratitude for the Dharma. So I want to jump into today's topic, and on the mornings I've been wanting to expand from the narrow focus that we often have on our meditation practice. Even Vipassana sitting mindfulness. Somebody I think yesterday was asking what's the difference between mindfulness and Vipassana, and I on some level there's no difference. Vipassana is the term that is translated as meditation that leads to liberating insight, and mindfulness is the technique that leads to that we practice in what we call Vipassana. But mindfulness also has this inclusive, it's not just about formal sitting meditation, it's about bringing this present time awareness into all of our activities. And so I want to do some walking meditation, as I have been on the Wednesday mornings, but just a little bit of discussion before we get into the walking practice. And some of the words from the Buddha about in the Satipatthana, which is translated as sati is the word for mindfulness. Satipatthana, four foundations, the four levels, the four aspects that we're mindful of. And the four foundations are: we're mindful of the body. And we're mindful of the second foundation, which is the feeling tone, the pleasant, unpleasant, neutral perception of all sensations. Everything that happens in the body is perceived as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And we're mindful of the mind. Not, mindfulness isn't about concentrating away from the mind and ignoring the mind, but turning towards with, as translated, mindfulness and clear comprehension. What's happening in your emotions, what's happening in your mind, future, past thoughts. And the fourth foundation, which is mindfulness of the truth of your experience, the Dharma, where you see directly and turn towards the Four Noble Truths, that there is suffering, there's a cause of suffering, there is the experience of and the potential of ending suffering. And, you see the hindrances as you turn towards the truth of your experience. You see where there is doubt, where there is craving, where there is aversion, restlessness, anxiety, all of that being true of our experience. And also in that fourth foundation, fourth level of mindfulness, we also experience what are called awakened factors. We start to see that there is non-sensual joy, that we have this internal, it's called Sukha, this happiness, this joy, this pleasure that comes from our meditation at times that doesn't have a sensual source. It's not the same kind of pleasure as sex or delicious food or doing something exciting. Sitting in meditation or just in a mindful activity and experiencing a joy that is an internal source, that's not coming from a sensual or material source. And also the tranquility, the peace of mind, the ease, the well-being, sometimes experiences of equanimity and of rapture. So all of these spiritual, what we would call spiritual experiences, spiritual because they're not materially, they're not created by an external source, but they're coming from our own mind. They're coming from our own heart. We're uncovering joy and peace. We're right here in ourselves. So after the Buddha gives the instructions about mindfulness of breath, and then he says, in the first foundation, this refrain comes in the first foundation of mindfulness. He says, this practice can be done, mindfulness, in the four postures. And the four postures, he says, he says, and further, after teaching the sitting meditation, he says, and further, whilst going, bring mindfulness while in movement, while going somewhere, or while standing, or while sitting or laying down. One understands, according to the reality, the expression, I am moving, or I am standing, or I am sitting, or I lie down. And we understand the position. We receive awareness of the body and what the body is doing. And it's easy, for all of us to have the humility to acknowledge that often we're not really aware of the body. We're so lost in our heads, so lost in thought, so identified with the plans that we're making or the worries that we're engaging in, the rumination, the resentment, that we lose awareness of standing or sitting or walking. I know I've had that experience a lot of times where I'm walking somewhere and I'm so lost in some thought that all of a sudden I've arrived and I missed the whole experience. I wasn't really aware of what I was seeing or even that I was walking. And so mindfulness becomes a practice of intentionally bringing awareness to the body and the body's movement, not just with eyes closed, but eyes open. And the Sati Sampajana says, and further, one acts with clear comprehension in walking forward and coming back. So walking meditation as part of the Vipassana instructions, as part of the of a core part of the practice. We bring clear comprehension to our movements. Even right now, as I'm moving my hand, trying to be mindful of all of the movement of the body. Clear comprehension when walking forward and when coming back. Clear comprehension in looking forward and looking back. So what are we seeing as we look right now? If you're looking at the screen, maybe there's the focus of the screen and seeing me, but then there's also whatever is behind it. And what's in the periphery, what's on the sides of our vision, and bringing awareness that we're in this living body that has these sense doors, and these sense doors become our mindfulness practice. Acts with clear comprehension in bending and stretching any part of the body. And so this is, any exercise that you do, just regular stretching, or if you do yoga practice, the yoga practice becomes part of our mindfulness of the bending, the stretching. We're bringing intentional awareness to the movements of the body. Acts with clear comprehension in carrying, this is for the monks, so it says carrying your robes and your alms bowl. So for us, maybe it's, carrying your purse, your backpack, your groceries, meditative awareness of carrying your groceries or whatever it is, your plate of food, your bowl. Acts with clear comprehension in eating, in drinking, in chewing, in tasting. So this is, again, a instruction and an encouragement to eating meditation, that whatever we're putting into our mouth becomes an opportunity for mindfulness of eating, of drinking, as we pick up the glass, feel the lifting, glass hitting the lips, the water hitting the tongue, the throat, awareness of that, the body's response to the drink. Drinking mindfully and bringing attention to it, and investigating with all of mindfulness, we're always keeping an awareness of and an investigation of the three characteristics: the impermanence of each movement, how it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, of what we see, how even what we see is changing, what we hear, what we taste. So eating, drinking, chewing, and tasting. And there's also a way here where the second noble truth so often kicks in, that repetitive craving. And how's it? We have to check out our relationship to craving in our relationship to food, in our relationship to drinking, whether it's water or whatever you're drinking. There's no judgment here. It's non-judgmental present time awareness, but just bringing awareness to when we're ingesting, when we're putting anything into our body, make that part of our spiritual practice. Acts with clear comprehension in discharging excrement and urine. And so, the Buddha's going all the way here. He's saying what you put into your body and what comes out of your body. And being mindful when you're pooping. And I think that excrement, poop, shit, whatever you want to call it, is a very important, what is our relationship to our body and to the elimination process of our body. I once, many years ago, attended a Thich Nhat Hanh lecture. It wasn't a whole retreat, it was just a lecture. And there's hundreds and hundreds of people there. And the main topic of his mindfulness lecture was about pooping and about mindfully, shitting. And he, at one point, he said, imagine all of the shits you've taken in your lifetime. What a large pile that would be. And that every single poop was an opportunity for this sort of miracle of mindfulness. And bringing the second foundation was, is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it neutral? Both the experience, the sensation of pooping, but also the smell, the experience of sitting on a toilet or squatting, or however your squatty potty. And so really bringing mindfulness to, and he talks about urinating and pooping, but I'd also, take this to a sexual level. The body, if you're ejaculating, if you're coming, mindfulness of our body. Every sexuality, of course, becomes such an amazing opportunity for staying present, staying embodied. And a lot of people will talk about how often in their sexuality they're in fantasy rather than fully present. And so this invitation to come back to what you're doing as you're doing it, whether you're eating or pooping, whether you're peeing or coming, whether you're standing or sitting down or laying down, whether you're being sexual with a partner or by yourself, or really bringing all of this life, this experience of the body, into our present time, non-judgmental, investigative awareness. We do the formal sitting meditation. Very important to do formal, to train the mind to be able to clearly comprehend, to see clearly what's happening as it's happening. And then we bring that trained mind, mindful, into all of the activities. So excrement and urine acts with clear comprehension in walking, in standing, in sitting, and in falling asleep. And also on awakening acts with clear comprehension. So all four postures, mindfulness of standing, of sitting, of walking, of laying down, and also of falling asleep. And often on retreat, I'll admit that my habit, my routine is I like to read before bed. And so reading for a while before bed, but then when the book is down and the light is out, really bringing mindfulness to the heaviness and that process of what am I seeing? What am I feeling? How's the breath changing as we doze off? Mindfulness of dozing off into sleep. And it's quite interesting to try to bring mindfulness to the moment of awakening. And one of the ways that we can do this is by setting the intention as you wake up in the morning to bring your attention immediately to, do I wake up on an in-breath or do I wake up on an out-breath? Do I wake up breathing in or out? And maybe you wake up, sort of coming out of a dream state or whatever it is. But then if you keep setting that intention, and maybe if you have like a meditation journal and you start kind of getting in the habit of, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to note it. I'm going to write it down. I woke up breathing in. It'll start your practice. It'll start this embodied mindfulness earlier in your day rather than kind of mindlessly getting up and making your coffee. Bringing awareness to the breath, to the body, and then getting out of bed mindfully. And again, you don't have to do this slow. This isn't some, super. This is just bringing attention to what we're doing. And so you can, okay, I'm breathing in, and now I'm going to get up, and I'm going to brush my teeth, and I'm going to get some coffee, and I'm going to meditate. But you're all doing all of it with presence. And the last piece in this part about the mindfulness and clear comprehension of what we're doing is, he says, also in speaking, mindfulness of speech. And of course, this is one of the factors of the Eightfold Path. And it's also, he's also here in the mindfulness teachings is, and he also says not only mindfulness of speaking and the intention, what we're saying, and are we speaking, true, useful, timely, kind words to each other, but also he says mindfulness of keeping silent. And that practice of renunciation where you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind. It's totally okay to want to say something and just be mindful of, I want to say something, and maybe it's not the right time to say it, or maybe it's, it's okay to be mindful of keeping silent as far as speech and just watching the mind's desire to speak. I know a lot of people who have not developed the skill of keeping silent and have to fill up any empty space with something, need to be saying something, rather than just being mindful of not speaking. So I know you get the picture here. What we're talking about, what I'm talking about, what the Buddha was talking about is mindfulness in every aspect of our life, all of the activities of our life. And we do formal, we practice this formally. On meditation retreat, we practice it. We do formal eating meditations, formal sitting meditations, formal walking meditations. We practice, noble silence. I encourage everybody to get on a meditation retreat when you can. Of course, it might be a little while before we're gathering together in the meditation retreats. I'm going to do this online retreat in a few weeks at the end of the month for the Memorial Day retreat. We just posted that. You're all, please consider joining me for that, because it's an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to take a couple days to bring all of the activities into practice, not just my morning meditation, but all day, each meal as a formal meditation practice. I'm going to do walking practice. I'm going to do lots of sitting practice. So I hope that yes. So welcome to join us for that Memorial Day retreat. So I'd like to do some walking practice. And I hope that you can join me in walking practice. I don't know, if you're in a space, even if you don't have to go far, because really we're just bringing awareness to the body. So I have the luxury of being in the meditation center, and there's plenty of room in here. Maybe you're in your living room, or you're in your office or bedroom, or wherever you are. Maybe even outside. It's beautiful to do practice outside. But I want to invite you to join me in walking practice. We'll do about 15 minutes of walking practice, and then happy to have some Q&A with you. So find a way. First, just come to mindfully standing and just feel all of the sensations as you stand. present time awareness of the sensations of standing. Let your arms just hang loosely. Release tension that you can release. Feeling gravity as it pulls us into the ground. We're just standing. Mindfulness of the sensations created in this upright posture. And then bring some mindfulness to moving the weights to one foot and feel all of that extra sensation created on that side of the body, and then shifting back to the other foot as we prepare to mindfully take a step, that lifting and moving and placing, lifting and moving and placing. And what we'll do in the formal kind of Theravadan meditation practice of walking meditation is done just in a straight line, just pacing back and forth. We don't do a lot of the circumambulation or the other kind of practices that are done in other traditions, but really just a walking meditation of just going nowhere, but practicing meditation. If you visit monasteries in Southeast Asia, often there'll be these walking paths, and they're formal meditation walking paths, and you just walk mindfully back and forth, and they're 20 or 30 feet long, and mindfulness of each step, left, right, left, right. If you want to use noting to help you track and stay present, stay out of the thinking mind's tendency to go to future and past, come back into the body and just note in your mind right foot placing, but put more attention on feeling the sensation than the word that your mind is saying. Feel that foot. Feel that foot. Stay as present as you can. And of course, the mind wanders, and then we come back. Return to the footsteps like you would return to the breath in a breathing meditation. Let everything else be in the background. Bring your full attention to clearly comprehending awareness of walking and the sensations created by walking and in the movement of the body. And of course, this formal walking meditation will help us engage mindfully with the rest of the activities of our life. So if you would like to, just join me in walking back and forth for the next 15 minutes, and then we'll have some discussion of it. Eyes open, hands however they feel comfortable, pockets behind you, hanging loose, whatever feels good for the walking. And then just mindfully turning around and coming back. There's that instruction, going forward and coming back. So see if you can maintain the mindfulness as you're going and you're coming and you're going and you're coming and you're going. Okay. And if you are still here and you can hear me, I was thinking for the last few minutes, adding this meditation, what's called a gata, or these phrases that we can say with each footstep, which is, as you take a step, say to yourself, nowhere to go. Because we're not going anywhere, just walking back and forth, just practicing mindfulness. No one to be. Let go of the selfing, the I, me, mine, just being. Not, you can let go of your identity as whatever you're clinging to as yourself, and nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to be. So with each footstep, nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to be. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to be. Okay. A few of you stayed. So, if you're practicing the walking with me, what is it like for you? What questions does this practice, the movement, the integration of mindfulness into every activity, as I said before, the sitting, the standing, the walking, the eating, the pooping, the sexual, all of it, bringing all of our life into an embodied, present time, investigative awareness where we become more and more awake to whatever is happening is impermanent. It is arising and it is passing. There is a feeling tone, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And we see that clearly sometimes in our sitting meditation, but the encouragement to see it in every meal, in every footstep, in every breath, in every poop, bringing it to every aspect of our life. And that this is the core, right? This is what liberates us. This is what helps us get free from clinging to the impermanent experiences and living a more fully embodied and a more free and more life of being at ease with reality as it is, rather than the delusions of how we wish it were, and the ideas and the clinging and the craving of rejecting what's happening. So any questions? Easier for me to answer questions on the Instagram or on the Facebook or the YouTube. If you're on Insta, invite you to come to YouTube. But if you're on Insta and you have a question, I have a few minutes here for any questions or comments about the walking. Yeah, thank you, Richard, making a comment on Facebook about mindful pooping. Clifford, traditionally eyes open during walking practice, and you could close your eyes, but check out why you might want to close your eyes. Sometimes we might want to close our eyes to bring a more sort of internal sense and not be drawn out into seeing. Sometimes we want to close our eyes to make it more dangerous. And so watch that of kind of like, oh, I want this to be more exciting. I want to walk with my eyes closed, near the cliff. So traditionally, this is one of the ways that we bring mindfulness to eyes open activity. Somebody's making a comment. Becca is saying, it's so interesting to me how my head wants to tell me what a waste of time that was, but it felt great to my body. This is, a lot of times meditation, our spiritual practices will feel like a waste of time because, and like we're not getting a quick fix out of it. And so we have to reframe that often we're not going to get an immediate result. That we might have to do the sitting meditation or the walking meditation or the eating meditation over and over and over before we start to see just a little shift in being more embodied. And sometimes our practices, I'm glad that for you, Becca, it felt great in your body. Sometimes we'll do meditations like sitting meditation where it's like, this doesn't feel good, my mind is loud, my body is uncomfortable, but we are making some progress. And so that's where we have to sort of understand, okay, what are we doing here? It's going to take a while to become more and more embodied, and we're not going to ever get there. It's maybe one of the analogies is when you're going to the gym and you haven't gone in a long time, and and it doesn't feel good, and you don't see any progress, and you're not losing any weight or gaining any muscle, but you just keep going, and eventually you get in better shape. So let's see, there's a question here about how about dealing with chronic pain. That's something that breaks into my meditation, and it feels like bringing too much body awareness is painful. It's a great question. Let me take a moment with it. I do feel like there's some, Amy, I feel like there's some balance. There's definitely an encouragement in these instructions to turn towards and to allow ourselves to feel even our pain. And to see that what we call as pain is often colored by fear and by resistance. And part of the invitation is fully just feel the sensation, free from the judgment of this shouldn't be happening, I hate this, I can't tolerate it. So trying to get through those levels of emotional resistance to just the sensation. And then when in those moments when we can do that, when we can just be with the stabbing, burning, aching, radiating, throbbing, whatever the actual sensation is of that chronic pain that we live with. Of course, we're trying to get to the place where we're meeting that pain with compassion, with friendliness, and with forgiveness. Sometimes it's a good idea to take your chronic pain as the object of loving kindness and forgiveness meditation, to turn towards your pain with just I forgive you as much as I can, because this human condition creates a situation where there's something unpleasant, and then there's the survival instinct, fight or flight, which hates the unpleasant, and especially when it's chronic and it's something that you live with, the best we can do is learn to have compassion for it. And see that it is cyclical, and that there is moments where it's less painful than others. Hopefully moments where there's a freedom from pain. The other thing is that it is okay to take a break from the pain. Don't always be, you don't always have to turn directly towards it. Sometimes feel into the body places where there isn't pain, or to replace that with concentrating on something else. This is one of the things that the Buddha said. He had chronic pain towards the end of his life. He had injuries and chronic pain, and he said it was one of the times that he would utilize the jhanas, which are these states of concentration, to give himself a break from living in a body that was so uncomfortable all of the time. He said, the only time I get real relief from the physical chronic pain, discomfort, is when I go into these concentrated states. So you could practice a strict concentration practice with phrases, and you'll get really concentrated with the loving kindness or the forgiveness phrases, or just that come back to the breath over and over in a stricter way. So I hope that both sides make sense. Sometimes we want to just turn towards and embrace and feel and see the layers of resistance that make it worse. Try to have more compassion, get down to just the sensation. Sometimes it's okay to turn away from and give ourselves a break from it with a concentration type of practice. Last question, let's see. Strength Beyond, thank you. Last question from Clifford. Says, I already watched myself hyper-aware from trauma. This came up in my awareness, accepting myself as I am. Also, very few thoughts was nice. Eyes open seemed to trigger more thoughts. I hear you, and I just keep, and you've been practicing this. Thoughts are not the enemy. It's okay to have thoughts, include thoughts, make room for the thoughts. And hyper-awareness is going to be part of a nervous system that has had a lot of pain in our lives. And so we bring mindfulness to that, awareness, hyper vigilant. This is unpleasant, and we just keep bringing awareness to it. And we have to stop running from our pain. The only way to really heal it is to turn towards it. Okay, I'll take this, Matt. I like this comment, and I will leave it here. It says the hard part about being present in real life situations with others is not to be self-conscious about slowing down. It's tough to stick to your own pace with others who move at an unconscious pace. Now, the one thing that I want to say here is be true to ourselves. Like go at your own pace, and if you have a kind of a slow pace, cool. But I want to say that you don't have to go slow in order to be conscious, and that you can bring, we slow down in a formal way, we sit still, we walk slowly, but then you start to integrate this present time awareness into every aspect, including when you're in a hurry. And you don't have to go slow to be mindful. Now, if you like to go slow, and if you have the ability to go slow, I hear what you're saying about that self-consciousness. But what an opportunity that is too, Matt, for awakening, of just seeing the ego kick in, and the I, me, mine. I'm going to be judged. All of that becomes third foundation of mindfulness, turning towards your mind and being like, oh, I'm self-conscious about being judged. That becomes our practice and an opportunity for liberation. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you. Join me on tomorrow night on refuge recovery. If you would like, I'll give a lecture about the refuge recovery process. I think I'm starting to talk about the Eightfold Path, the Buddha's Eightfold Path, and how we apply it to the practice of recovering from addiction. That's on Refuge Recovery, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube channel. Tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific time. As I said in the beginning, we do have the registration open for the Memorial Day virtual retreat. They're not going to allow us to hold it in person this year because of social distancing, pandemic issues. So we're going to do an online retreat. And I'll be inviting you to come, and that should be on the social media and on our website. Visit againstthestream.com if you'd like to register. Think about coming and practicing. We'll start at 7 o'clock with a Dharma talk Friday night, and we'll go through Saturday and Sunday and end at 9 p.m. Sunday night. I believe that's May 22nd through 24th, something like that. So in 3 weeks. I hope some of you can join me for that. Register. If you can't afford, we're charging a couple $100 for the weekend. If you can't afford it, just let us know. We're happy to do some scholarships, and come practice with us if you can. Peace.